Is this round 3? Did we do one when you were on the Mariners? We had like the old equipment, and we did one, and with this one. And then
This might be 3.
this is 3, and it's the first video though. Nice. So we got them on each team. Bingo.
Good go.
All right, let's do it.
All right, and welcome back to The Price for Paradise. My name's Woody, a.k.a. Creston Woods, and with me today, we have a return guest, Isaiah Campbell, back again for another Mound visit in the podcast room. What's going on, Isaiah? How you been, brother?
Oh, nothing much. Doing good. Just getting ready for the season and just, starting to ramp up the
It's almost spring
workouts
now.
and stuff. Yeah, it's almost spring, so it's definitely time to get going again.
Yeah, so you just had signed a deal with the Diamondbacks, right? The organization. And so talk to us a little bit about that. You were with the Red Sox before that, and then the Mariners prior to on our last 2 podcasts.
Yeah, so I was with the Boston Red Sox the last 2 years. Finally hit my minor league free agency contract situation. Basically, I think it's after 7 years you can become a minor league free agent if you get DFA'd or are not on the 40-man roster. So I finally hit that this year, and sometime in November, I want to say middle of November, we had a conversation with the Diamondbacks and had a really good talk, and they gave me a good offer, so signed with them in November, which is actually, it's a good thing to sign early in the off season. Gives you a place to, know where you're going to be at for the next year, and it's nice being in Arizona, living in Arizona, and having their complex about 10 minutes from my house, so I can go in and get some work done with the coaching staff there and stuff.
Yeah, this past year you bought that house in Scottsdale, and so like it's much nicer being back home for work, and now you also have some other big life things coming up as well with your wife, and so that'll be huge, right?
Yeah, I guess it's pretty public now, but me and my wife are expecting our first kid. Well,
sorry if I did. I mean,
no, you're good.
Throw it out there for you.
Yeah, we're expecting our first kid, so it's nice to have the chance and opportunity to be at home for a whole season, and there's still road trips here and there, and there's still a chance that I could be in AAA at some point in the year, but have the chance to break with the team and be in Arizona for 6 months, the extra 6 months that I'm usually not here. That's a pretty good opportunity to be with Kylie through the hardest parts of the pregnancy at the end when she that she's not gonna have a lot of energy, and hopefully be there when the kid's born and be around when it's the first few months of its life and stuff.
It's like God put this like seamlessly into your life to where you get to sign with your home team. I know not your hometown, but like the team where you have a house and where your wife is, and like it's just kind of amazing how that kind of lined up for you.
Yeah, it's a huge blessing. It's crazy how things work out, and I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm excited for this part of this chapter of our life. It's not going to be easy. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of long nights and restless sleeps, but it's going to be it's a very fun and enjoyable moment for us in our lives.
It's exciting, dude. And so talk to me about back to baseball, a little bit about like how you're feeling about going into this season. Are you refreshed mindset wise? Like how was the off season? What'd you do differently this time?
Yeah, definitely feel refreshed. Definitely feel like it's going to give me a new, basically I feel like a new chance at baseball. I feel like the last few years, and it's nothing against like the organization that I was with, Boston was great to me. They've did a lot of good things for me as a baseball player, but just didn't feel like I mentally was at 100% strength mentally. And part of baseball, is you got to be mentally strong, and it's not for the mentally weak. So
it's the biggest mental game on the planet.
Yeah. So for me, it was just, I had a lot of, I wouldn't say self-doubt, but just a lot of, struggling mentally throughout the seasons. But, just getting in with the Diamondbacks, talking to the coaches, and just having some new, basically just feel like another chance at, restarting my career, getting back to who I was when I first made my debut with the Mariners, when I was coming up the system. So it's pretty cool. And I know, and like we said, like being able to do it at home, it even makes it even more special.
Yeah. And being in again, back in Arizona, spring training is going to be huge. I know, you were talking about it last podcast. It was all about, spring training and how, Florida was different than Arizona, and just you're excited for like coming back to here and doing stuff like that.
Yeah, it's always nice to have spring training where you're from or where you live, I guess. I mean, that's part of the thing that a lot of people don't understand is like when you're like you have to pay for your own housing in spring training. So that's another month and a half, 2 months where you're paying out of pocket for living. And then when you go in the season as a free agent and stuff, you have to pay for your housing and stuff. So it just gives you a sense of, financial security for another month and a half that you don't have to worry about buying a house or finding a house, renting a house, looking for all that stuff. But also too, it's just, the travel in Arizona spring training is much easier than Florida spring training. Definitely pros and cons to both, but I mean, I just enjoy Arizona spring training so much more.
Yeah, definitely. And being in Arizona, it's nice being with your trainers and people that you like deal with in the off season as well, right? Being back here is going to be, it's going to be a big shift, but I did think it's going to be a great shift for you, right? Like it's going to be what you need, right, to keep that thing going and to keep that mindset strong.
Yeah, for sure. I think being able to go in the complex in January, be able to throw bullpens in front of the pitching coaches, get some feedback, have some conversation with them, but also be able to go to Mondays and Thursdays, work out with my trainers that I work out with for the past few off seasons, and then being able to like come in here and do the newbie and get recovery in with you is it's pretty nice and to have, and then also just being able to have that extra time. Because like when I go to Florida, I leave earlier than spring training starts to get acclimated to the days, the Florida time zone. Just there's a whole different situation that you're doing over there. So having the extra few weeks here before the season starts to like hang out with Kylie and enjoy this time is it's special.
How did it feel coming off of last season? How's the arm, and how does it feel right now finishing through the off season?
Yeah, I'd definitely say last year was, wasn't the best year performance wise, but, I had a full year of health, which is, something that I've always
That's a win
dealt
in
with.
itself.
Yeah. And so, something that I've dealt with, something that's always been a problem of mine is not having injuries or being on the IL at any point through the year. And last year I spent every day, not on the IL, spent every day available to pitch, which was a huge win for me, like you said. And I would say, my arm's in the same spot as it was going into last year. Really just feel like it's healthy. Feel like my body's really healthy. Feel like I'm in a good spot going into spring training. And, that's all you can ask for when you get into the end of January, early February is that you're in a good spot, feel healthy and ready to go.
Yeah, and then get through spring training, feeling the same, right? Because it's still spring training. Yeah, we gotta wait for season, and but you have a chance this spring training to work your way into the big league. And you said you like the way the team is with the Diamondbacks, and then when we were talking off before about how young they are, right? And so tell me a little bit about being around a bunch of young guys and how like energizing it is to have that too.
Yeah, I mean I think the older you kind of get in baseball, I mean, I'm still, I would say, young for the most part in baseball. I'm 28. But, you just see these young guys and it kind of just gives you that energy again that, like, they're bringing energy every morning that's 9 a.m. and they're, playing the music loud. They're having a good time. They're energetic. And it just brings back that energy that, you sometimes miss during baseball season, especially during the off season. The off season can get very monotonous and just doing the same thing over and over again, but that's part of it. But going into the complex and seeing these young guys who are just energetic, they're pumped up to see their old buddies and stuff. It's fun, it's enjoyable, and it's a good group of guys over there. They all have been pretty inclusive and bringing me into the family of guys and stuff, and everybody seems really nice and stuff. So I'm excited to kind of get to know more people and get the season rolling.
talk to me about your routines, your rituals, the things you've been doing this off season. Has it been the same as prior off seasons? Because I know you're a very routine based guy when it comes to your diet. I mean, you've been eating bison, pounds of it, back to back to back. But is anything new this year? Routines, rituals, things that you're trying to add?
I would say routine wise, it's been basically the same as it was last year. Just taking care of the nutrition, taking care of the rehab part of the off season. I feel like before prior years, I would kind of, get away from the rehab process of it. But I think for me, it's, the rehab process never really stops. It has to be going all through the off season to keep my body, keep my arm, and, keep it in shape for, a 6-month season because it's a grueling season. I think one thing for me since, January started, I've trying to just find ways to clear my mind and clear my headspace and get myself in, better state of minds and stuff. So I've really started to read every day and get more into books and kind of just read about mindset, read about different habits and stuff and things that I should have done a long time ago, but, finally glad I got into it and stuff. And then something else that, me and Kylie started going to church in January and gone every Sunday. And, it's nice just to get back into church. I grew up in a family that was, would say on and off and getting into church and stuff, but, kind of going every day, every Sunday and really having, a place that I enjoy going to, a place that I like hearing the sermons and stuff. It's been enjoyable, just, clear the mind, get into a new headspace, get into the new week and, just get into a place where, it's just spiritual and you just feel like you can be free and be whoever you want and stuff.
There's a different kind of confidence when like an athlete has faith and they fear like nothing but God and they can go out there and, perform and they trust that whatever God has prepared for them today, that they let it out all on the field. And it's just like, it's a great mindset to not overthink. And I see a lot of baseball or like pro athletes, like a lot of them will give it up to God after their games and stuff like that. And so I do think it's a really important mindset to hear for the people because a lot of times people don't talk about that, openly and outwardly about their faith and stuff like that. But it really does give you peace and confidence, going into something like, especially when you've got 100,000 fans watching you.
Yeah. And I think, it's, we live with like so much fear in our lives, throughout our lives. You're always taught that fear is among us. You're fearful of everything that can go wrong, fearful of, so much things that can happen in life.
Marketers are trying to scare you into buying their products.
Fear is everywhere around us. And, baseball is another place where, there's fear because you don't know what's going to happen next. There's so much uncertainty and it can lead to fear. And I think, one Bible verse that I've really leaned into this offseason is 2 Timothy 1:7. It's talking about we're not built for fear, but to have a heart of love and faith. And that's how God wants us to be is because fear is just something that we put into the world. And so if we don't have that fear, just put in the back burner, it's still going to be there. But if we don't put the motion of this is fearful for me, we're going to be in a better headspace. We're going to be in a better spot. And I think that's something for me, especially in baseball, going into a new going into a place that, I don't know anybody, that's fearful. But I think for me, going into the complex and stuff, for me is I'm not going to be afraid to meet people. I'm not going to be afraid to talk to people. It's just another group of baseball players in a different organization, different uniform. But we're all there for the same reason, the same causes to win a World Series, to make the team out of spring training, So just really trying to live with no fear this year, whether it's off the baseball field or even on the baseball field. That's a model that I want to really have every single day.
I really like that. And I really like not living courageously and using fear as that awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is you're only scared because you care.
Yep.
It's because you want to be there. It's because you want to show up and perform, and that's why you would be scared. But realistically, if you give it your all, or people they don't even judge you for just putting your all out on the field, right? And so what's the worst that could really happen? But we build this thing up in our mind and we ruminate on it, and so you just got to get past that.
Yep, 100%. I agree with you 100%. It's like I said, fear is just something we put into our minds, and it's put into us from other people and stuff. But screw it. It's just be who you are. I mean,
Bet on yourself.
yeah, I'm a person who's very quiet, very laid back. Just try to stay to myself, and I'm not the person who's gonna be in the room, talking to every single person out there. But so like for me, like meeting new people is like that's something that I've always stressed and been fearful of. But this time I was just like, let's just just go in there, meet new people. These guys are baseball players just like you. They're here for the same goal and stuff. So it made it a lot easier transition than years prior.
Yeah, and our last podcast was basically themed to surrounding on betting on yourself, but like you could have just worked that corporate job and like been kind of just another guy doing your thing. And no offense to anyone who's doing that, by the way. Yeah, but like sometimes you just gotta let go and bet on yourself. And like, I mean, if you fail playing in the MLB and in the minors, like, dude, that's a sick route. That's like you shot really high and you fell amongst the stars. Like that's huge. And it's really cool to see people still living their childhood dream this late into their lives, right? Especially because like all of us wanted to do that when we were 5.
Yeah, I think it's it's a blessing every single day to go to a baseball field, work out, go to my workout place, pick up a baseball, still have health to play baseball. You hear so many stories of people who just can't play baseball anymore because of injuries, or they didn't get the shot to play in the professional baseball and stuff. Or you hear guys who are playing indie ball till they're in their 30s just because like they never want to give up the dream. So for me it's a blessing every single day that I get to go to a baseball field, and a blessing to have health. I threw a bullpen today and had a healthy bullpen, and like it's just a blessing for me to be able to live out a childhood dream. I think now I sometimes take for granted that like that I'm doing it. That's like, man, this is still a childhood dream.
Yeah.
That I was, one at some point in my life, like I'm going to be a professional baseball player.
And you actually went out and did it.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I remember like I said I was going to be a professional baseball player and a teacher. I think it was like my 5th grade or 4th grade teacher was like, yeah, there's no chance. Like you got to be realistic and stuff. But like, it's,
yeah,
when you keep doing the work and you keep putting in the effort and stuff, like, I mean, part of it's being, God-given talent and stuff, but the rest of it's, putting in the work for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think through a lot of these injuries that I've had in the years prior and then last year, seeing that first success of, full healthy season, it's pushed me even harder this year to have another year of health. And I think when we talked on the last podcast, one of my goals was like, just have a healthy season.
And you did.
And I did. And so now it's like, all right, let's put 2 healthy seasons together and the rest will take care of itself. Like not worrying about the results, just the process of having a healthy season, taking care of my body, taking care of my arm.
Being consistent.
Yeah, that's the stuff that matters most to me, instead of, like the results will take care of themselves, but the process is the biggest part to me.
I love it. And how does the mindset change now that, you're going to be a dad? And how does that like change the way you live as a baseball player? Because I know that that's like, like a big life turn and like a big mindset shift in itself. And like, just like going back to your faith, or just like, but that like now there's like a really big piece of your life, right? That takes a big strong hold on some parts of it. Right. So,
yeah, I think for me, there's a lot of fear that comes with having a kid.
yeah.
How am I going to be as a dad? How am I going to, all the stuff outside the world that you can't control that's going to be, influential on your kid and stuff. And it's like, how can I make sure my kid stays on the right path, make sure my kid is, doing the right things. And, there's a lot of fear out there that this is, fear that's necessary because there's so much unknown. So I think that's a little bit of, just worrying about the kid so much more. You're worrying about, I'm going to be worrying about taking care of him and making sure that they're having a great life and they're getting everything they need. And it's going to, take a little bit off of me, stuff that I enjoy doing, put it back on the, the back burner.
There are some sacrifices.
Yeah,
when it comes
golfing
to...
less and,
Hey, but you might have a little golfer to join you.
Yeah, for sure. But I think for me, baseball wise, it doesn't really change anything. Last year, my mindset, I think, I've had so many injuries in the past that really for me, my mindset changed last year, where it was like, you're getting closer to the end of, your baseball career. Like this might not last for much longer. This might be your last year. So my mindset really just changed of like, just enjoy every day, enjoy every moment.
Be present with it.
Yeah, just be more present. So I think there's so much worry in baseball of just like, all right, will I get back to the big leagues? What does the coach think of me? But for me, it's just like be more present, be more aware of my surroundings, enjoy the guys on the team, enjoy hanging out with them. And that's something that I'm want to bring into this year as well, just enjoy every single moment. Because I'm living out my childhood dream, but you know, this could be my last year playing baseball. You never know what's going to happen.
You never know.
So just really enjoying every single moment. And then, when I'm at home, if I'm with the Diamondbacks in the big leagues, enjoying every moment with the baby and, seeing them grow and seeing them, take this journey of life, the new steps they're going to take, the first steps, the first time they say words, like that's a blessing to have and to look forward to. But I'd say in baseball wise, it's just, enjoying the moment, taking it 1 second at a time.
Yeah, and all the parents that are scared of like being a good parent or whatever, all you got to do is be present.
Yeah.
Like when you're there for them, like you be present for them, and I'm sure the rest will take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
God got you on that one, and so it's really cool mindset going into the next year, playing for a little bit more than just yourself, and like you have your family, and it's crazy, but exciting. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
It's gonna be like a 6'7" D1 athlete. It's gonna be I mean, with Kylie's genes and your genes, Kylie's dad is Bruce is what 6'5", and you're tall, so this could be a super athlete, guys. Yeah, and so watch out for the future Campbell.
He's gonna have every chance to be tall and stuff. But, hopefully we just
tall and athletic. You guys are both jacked too.
Yeah, hopefully we just put them in the right direction and whatever they want to do. We're gonna follow and love them the same way. But I always joke with Kylie that I'm gonna put a golf club in their hand the second it's born and stuff, and put a baseball in their left hand to make them a lefty, because lefties have it so much easier than righties.
Hey, he's a righty pitcher. He's over here like making his kid a lefty for the long run. That's hilarious. And yeah, and talk to me a little bit about like how, I mean, are you planning on like how to parent? Like, are you like reading books on that too? Like you said you're reading lots of books lately. So like what kind of books have you been into?
Yeah, so I just finished my 4th book of January. I would say I've never really been a reader, but when I say that, I guess I never really gave myself a chance to be
You're
like,
oh, I kind of like this.
Yeah, and so I read the first book and I'm like, wow, I actually enjoyed doing this. I made a goal to like, all right, let's read 10 pages a day. That was my goal. And then it was like after the 4th day, I'm like reading 4 chapters a day.
You kind of get hooked.
Yeah, I'm getting through these books, so much faster than I was expecting. But, the first book I read was Atomic Habits.
Classic.
A good
Must
book,
read.
just to have about, how to turn things around, or, how to make them more fun, just ways to, reinvent how to have these new habits.
My favorite key from that one is habit stacking. I always add my audiobooks to my cardio, so you get like 2 for 1s or something like that.
And I think, for me, like those new habits that I've been putting in this off season are like, I read the Bible every morning and, read a new verse or read about a new story and write down, thoughts about it. Reading a book every single day, or reading 10 pages every single day. That's part of my habits. One big thing for me too, like the habit that like I've been creating is like, calling my parents more, because they live in Kansas City, so I don't see them often, but I feel like I take it for granted sometimes. So like, just getting more in contact with them has been a big thing for me. Then the second book I read was called You Will Rock as a Dad. Basically just a book about, the pregnancy, the trimesters, what your wife's going through the pregnancy, what the baby's doing at different times, and then just, different steps of when the kid is born, what to bring to the hospital, what to have at the hospital, what to have when the baby's born at home, just different things. So like, it's a way to, have a reminder of, okay, this is real. This is, coming up, like, but I'll have at least a thing to go back to and read to be like, okay, like this is what I need to bring to the hospital, or this is what we need at the house. Like X, Y, and Z, that will make it a little bit easier.
give you a little roadmap to success on this one.
And then the third book I read was Relentless.
Amazing book. Tim Grover.
Yeah, it's a good book. Just another, great read about, different mentalities and stuff of what people can be in life and how you can, change your mentality or how you can view certain situations in life. I think that was a really good book to read early on, especially in the off season going into a new season. And this last book was just a book so me and Kylie go to Impact Church, and the pastor, he had a stroke in 2022, I believe. And it was just a book that he wrote about, his life and just different stories in the Bible of how they kind of correlate to, different things that are going on in your life every single day. So those are the 4 books I've read so far, different things of, habits, different mentalities, being a dad, a book from a pastor, so definitely a hodgepodge of things, but a lot of stuff to learn from. And then the book I'm reading now is a Jay Shetty book. It's 8 Rules of Love. Just a book, for me to read because, I think you think you have it figured out at all times, but, whenever you're in a marriage and stuff, there's so much stuff to learn and there's so many ways to grow and stuff.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just a way to, have a reminder and learn new things and new things about me and new ways of, thinking of love. So that's the new book I'm reading. I just started it last night and, who knows how long it'll take me to finish it, but it seems like it's going to be a lot quicker than I would have said 2 months ago.
Yeah. And it's not like, you don't just get married and you don't ride off into the sunset and it's all happy endings. Like obviously you got to work at it, right? Every relationship is like that and it's going to have its, trials and tribulations, but I mean, you got a good one and, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kylie and the future baby.
Yeah.
All right, let's take it back and let's bring it back into a little bit of baseball and some stuff like that. And so, who are the guys that you look up to, like in the league, or is there anyone that you kind of see like them doing their work and model after, or do you kind of just do your own thing or focus on yours?
Yeah, I would say I'm more focused on myself and what I'm doing. You definitely see some vets who've been in the league for a long time. There's a reason they've been in the league for a long time. They've had success. They have the talent to be in the league for a long time.
You can learn some stuff from them.
Yeah, but I
think
the big thing for those guys is they've learned their process of how to get ready to play every single day
for them.
But they've done it better than guys who are in the league for a year to 4 years or never make it. Like they've learned their process so well that like it's just second nature to them. They can come into the field and it's like, I'm doing my own thing and I'm going to get it done. But they also are willing to learn from other people. I think that's what makes some of these guys so great. And for me, it's, I have things that work for me, but I'm also willing to learn from other guys and take things from, X, Y, and Z. But I don't want to be, follow a guy who's had 10 years and be like, yeah, I want to do everything he's doing just because he had a 10-year career. Because that's not going to work for me. I'm a different player.
You have a different arm slot. You have a different build. Like it's going to be a different person.
Every single person. So I wouldn't say there's anybody that like, I try to mimic myself after, or I try to be like. I say I would take some stuff from different players and, just learn from them. And I think the best way of saying it is, or best way of doing it is picking older guys' brains, because they've seen different things. To be in the league for 10 years.
Experience plays.
Yeah, you've been through a lot of different things in baseball. So, just picking their brain of, pitching guys or, their work ethic, their preparation, like that's a big thing for me. I remember last year I played with Alex Bregman for a little bit, and that guy is a genius about baseball. And, just talking to him, like you get smarter, you learn more about yourself. Like he remembers when I faced him in 2023, like he remembers the whole AB, and he just like, that's who he is though. It's like, he remembers how guys pitch him. He does so much reviewing and so much studying on guys that we're about to face that like he knows everything that's going to come at him. And that's part of his preparation of just, being ready for everything that can come at him that way. So, just talking to the older guys who've been there forever and picking their brains, like that's the biggest thing you can do as a younger baseball player in the big leagues.
Yeah. Get up there, ask some questions.
Mhm.
And what would you tell your younger self? Say you're just coming into the league, and like now you're that mentor to that person. Like if someone was to pick your brain, what would you tell them? Other than pick other people's brains.
Yeah, I think for me, just the new way of thinking is, I would say it would be the fear part of everything
Yeah.
because it's so,
It's
it's like you finally make the debut and stuff, but then it's like there's so much fear of like what's going to happen next, especially as a rookie. Um, because you never know, like you could be throwing well and then you could get sent back down to the minors because like, hey, we need to make a roster move.
it could
Like,
have nothing to do with your
yeah,
performance.
you could have gone 10 innings straight with no earned runs, but like, hey, man, you're the only guy with options. Like, we got to send you down, and like nothing against you. So it's like
Not personal. It's business.
there's always just that fear of, I would say like when I was coming up, there was always that fear of like, hey, like you come into the clubhouse, like, am I going to get sent down today? Hey, like, what's going to happen? So I think for me, it'd be like just telling myself, like, man, don't live with that fear. Like,
If you get sent down, you get sent down.
whatever happens is going to happen. You can't control the business part of baseball. But what you can control is how you come into the field every single day and enjoy every single second at the baseball field. Let the rest take care of itself, but come in and do your preparation, do the stuff that you are meant to do every single day, and the rest will take care of itself. And whatever happens after that is out of your hands. I mean, obviously there is a part of like you have to throw well, or you have to, keep having success in baseball to stay up there. But, if you have that preparation, you have that mentality of, not having fear. I think that's something that I would have told myself 2 years ago when I made my debut to just like think that way a lot better.
It would give you the best environment for success.
Yeah.
Right. And so setting yourself up and being consistent and, following that plan and just not fearing anything but God. Right.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's the only thing. And it's a crazy thing to do because it's almost hard to do. Like it's one of those things of letting go, right?
Yeah.
We always hold on to it, and like, yeah, everyone around you is gonna say something to you. Like, was it like they're gonna ask you a question like, oh, is it hard up there? Like, or oh, is it do you worry about this?
Yeah.
And like you're like, why did you ask me that question? Like, are you trying to make me worry about it? Because I wasn't thinking about it until you said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also too, like for me, like on the baseball side of it, of like pitching, like I've never really had fear of like facing anybody, like whether it's, Shohei Ohtani or a guy who's just like in my shoes, who's been up and down for a while. Like I'm going to treat you the same way I'm going to treat that guy the same way as I treat Shohei Ohtani. Like I'm not afraid to face that person. That is one thing that I've been, like very proud of myself, is like not worrying about who's in the box and just worrying about who I am. And so I think that's just something that like is also a very big part of baseball, is like there's guys who like when they see a big name guy in the box, like you're like, oh crap, like it's Ohtani.
Start shaking a little bit.
Like,
you're like, breathe, take a breath.
Yeah, for me, it's just like, man, it's another guy who's playing the game of baseball. And
how cool am I playing against the guys I played against on video games?
The guy, I mean, he's gonna be making more money than me and stuff, but like that doesn't matter. Like he got there because he was successful. He had his preparation, and some of it also is like just Ohtani or whoever. Like some of those guys are just God given, just unbelievable talents.
Unbelievable for sure.
But it's just for me, it's like that's like the mentality of just taking everybody the same. Don't make someone bigger than they are, because at the end of the day, we're all just people. We just play the game of baseball and do it in front of a bunch of fans.
I also think it's kind of just cool to be against Shohei. Yeah. I think that's like almost like I kind of take that as a good challenge. Yeah. You're like, if I can get this guy, this is going to be like a confidence builder.
For sure.
Yeah. And so, and talk to me a little bit about like, what's the future going to look like? Like, I guess you're going to be with the D-backs, so it's a fight to be up and down, right? But I guess, like, I don't know, what's it going to be like being on this side of the United States, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, going into spring training.
Where's their AAA? Reno,
Nevada.
Yeah.
So going into spring training, sign a minor league deal and stuff. So there's a good chance to break with the team. If I go in there, there's always a chance to break with the team. If I go in there,
play well.
Yeah, do my thing, go out there, have some success. There's a chance to break with the team. But whatever happens. If I'm in Reno to start the year, it's it's not like it's the end of the world. I still got to play baseball, and there's guys who will be there that I'll enjoy hanging out with and stuff. But the goal for me going into spring training is to break camp with the team.
Mhm.
And I think the goal for me is, besides having another healthy year, is I want to spend the whole year in the big leagues, and that's not like an easy task to say as a goal. There's other smaller things that I have to do to make that big goal a reality. Um, but that's the big goal for the year, is to spend a whole year in the big leagues. And if it happens, I'm going to be ecstatic at the end of the year when the postseason comes around. I'm like, man, I did it. And if it doesn't happen, it's all part of the plan, and not going to let it hurt me or make me think any differently of myself. And then after the year, whatever, we'll just kind of see what happens, because obviously it's a 1-year deal. So
Yeah.
the goal would be to come back here and
Yeah.
spend a lot more years and live at home. But whatever happens after that.
And so talk to me about preparation as a reliever, and like knowing which roles there are like on the back end of, a game where like you come in after the starter. And so would you want to be a closer? Would you want to be a setup guy? Like, where do you prefer on the back end of the bullpen?
Yeah, I think as a bullpen guy, everyone wants to be, the back end guy, the closer.
The closer, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean that's where as a
ideal.
as a bullpen guy, that's where the most value is as a baseball player. Like in the sense of like future, if you make it to free agency and stuff, like future paychecks and stuff, like that's where the most valuable person in the bullpen is. But I also think like everybody in the bullpen has a valuable spot.
Of
The
course.
guy who comes in right after the starter and has to keep the game close, or the guy who is the setup guy to the closer. He's got a job to do to get the game, to stay in the lead, to get to the closer. The guy who comes in after the starter, whether they're it's a close game, you're up by 2, you're down by 2, like that guy's got a job to keep the game at 2 runs. Either like that's their job. And then there's a guy, like there's a guy in every bullpen who's like a mop-up guy. Like if it's 10-run game, like that guy's coming in to, all right, you're finishing the game. But that guy also has a job to do, to make sure that everybody else doesn't have to throw.
Yeah.
So I think like
That's your chance to show what you got too.
and I think at the end of the day, like everyone wants to be a closer. I want to be a closer, but like
Yeah.
there's only one on each team.
Of course.
Some teams might do like a committee and stuff, but usually most teams have one guy that they use in the 9th inning. So you got to work for that and work for that and work towards that. So for me, it's like, whatever my job is in the bullpen, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I'm going to be like, all right, this is my job. I'm going to be the best at that job. And then if I get opportunities to go to another spot in the bullpen, whether it's like, I start as the mop-up guy, and then like, all right, you've earned the trust to go into a game where you're down by 1 or up by 1, like I'm going to do the best job I can. And then it's like, all right, you've done that successfully. Now let's go to the next job. So like, you got to work your way up, just like you do in any business. But it's wherever you're at, you just got to enjoy what you're doing and be satisfied with where you're at, and don't look to the future of like, oh, I should be at the closer spot, or I should be here, X, Y, and Z.
Oh yeah.
That's when you're going to get off of your game. So for me, it's just be happy where I'm at, enjoy whatever job I have, and don't try to know what that job is and not try to be someone else.
Yeah, and like whatever God's got planned for you, He's got planned for you. And so wherever role you're in, you got to support, and like you got to support your teammates too in that. Like if you're, oh, I should be the closer, but like you're not rooting on your guy to, close out the game, like you want him to play better, because if you beat him out, that means you're playing your best stuff too.
Yeah.
And like that makes you better as an athlete, right? Like we're not here to, compare ourselves to our teammates. We're here to, work with our teammates, and good competition as your teammates is going to only just make you better.
100%.
Yeah. And 100%. So, have you met many of the guys, or is it just like still new, everyone coming into facilities right now?
No, there's a lot of guys already at the facility. I mean, I would say,
because you guys don't have to report yet. But
no, yeah. I think pitchers and catchers report dates like February 10th. So, I mean, there's a lot of time to, there's another 2.5 weeks before you actually have to report. But I would say there's probably, I'd say today, bullpen schedule wise, there's probably 15 bullpens. So like,
oh, awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot. And then there's also the guys who, who are injured, who are at the facility doing their stuff.
Getting their work.
I'd probably say, there's probably 10 to 12 position players there right now. So like, I mean, there's so many guys already at the facility, which makes it nice. And like, it shows that these guys are hungry to, win ball games and get in and, want to be with the other guys because it's a good group of guys. But it also too, I think it helps because like a lot of these guys live here now. Like some of these guys have
Yeah.
come up in the org, and so like they've made Arizona home.
And logistically, Arizona's nice. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like, especially this is the time of year, it's the winter time. So like
Yeah.
come here early, get ready early. Like,
So yeah, I think a lot of these guys, have just made Arizona home, or like, all right, I might as well just come out in January and get with the coaches, get in the complex, and get spring training started a little earlier, get acclimated. So, I think it's cool to see how many guys are already here and stuff.
yeah, I love it. I love it. And I mean, rooting for the D-backs this year. This is gonna be a fun one to go to some of these games. And so, talk to me a little bit about like, I guess what's the mindset going into 2026? What's like no fear, right? That's the main one.
Yeah, I think
The umbrella.
I think there's having no fear and stuff, but also just a growth mindset. You always hear of like people. I think in baseball, like you always have to be growing as a baseball player. You always have to be learning because if you get stagnant of where you're at, people are going to pass you up, or people are going to, the next cream of the crop is coming. Like these guys are getting younger, they're getting to the big leagues a lot quicker. So, you always have to be growing. I think for me too, off the field, just growing in who I want to be as a person, a man, a husband, a father in the near future, just growing in everything that I do, learning more about myself, what's the things that, I don't like about myself, but the things that I also love about myself, and just learning every single day about, how to be a better person, how to be a better husband, how to be a better father whenever that comes,
Diving into
So,
self-awareness.
Yeah. So I think the two big things for me, just no fear and growing in every aspect of my life, being, 20 years down the road when I'm done with baseball, and, kid's going to be 19 in college, and, whatever I'm doing, if it's, if I'm working, if I'm retired, 'cause, I had a great career, in baseball, like, whatever it is, like just looking back to like where I was when I was younger, and like, man, just being proud of who I've become and stuff. And
Yeah.
that starts this year. And, there's going to be ups and downs, trial and error of everything, but it's going to be a fun and joyful ride this year that I'm going on and stuff.
I love it, man. And any last things you want to tell the young guys out there, the kids that just are coming up in the game, and like, what is it to be like, a big leaguer? Like, what's it like in words of wisdom?
Yeah, I would say, for kids that are young, like the younger generation that are still like, in elementary school and middle school, it's like you got to enjoy being around like your friends. Baseball is going to get hard enough. It's going to get stressful enough that like when you're young, you just got to enjoy the game of baseball, because that's the best. Those are some of the best times you can have in baseball, is when you're
12
traveling.
years old,
Yeah,
playing
you're
club ball.
traveling and you're playing with the kids from your high school or your middle school, whatever you're at. And like I always say, like I think we had this conversation when we were doing the newbie one day. It was like, if you're good enough, colleges and pro teams are going to find you. You don't have to go pay all this money to go to Perfect Game or all X, Y, and Z. Like I did some of that, but I didn't do all the Perfect Game, all the travel ball when I was in high school. Like I played on a team that was our farthest trip outside of Kansas City was 3 hours.
Yeah.
So a small community college in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. But like if you're good enough, teams are going to find you. Teams are going to reach out to you. But to the point of like what's it like being a professional baseball player? It's it's stressful at times. It's you're away from your family a lot. It's a lot of long days, long hours, but it's the most fulfilling thing to know that you've reached the goal that you've had for so long. And never to take it for granted, because your career can end tomorrow. So it's take everything, never take it for granted. Take every day like it's your last day, and just enjoy every single second of the journey you're on.
I talked to Isaiah about like the young guys I coach in baseball a lot, and like it's it's cool to see that he still has that like that feel of like love of the game when you're older, because I think that's what it takes is like you still got to be that kid. Like when you're up there, it's like a game, a bunch of big kids. Like when you see them winning the championships and like they're dancing around, they're partying, they're having a great time, and they're making jokes with each other. Like, I mean, at least I saw that with the Dodgers this last year. Ugh. But I mean, hopefully we can dethrone them this year, especially with them being in our division. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, like to your point, it's just a lot of long, lonely hours that you're spending by yourself. I mean, 162 games of MLB season plus, if you make the postseason, you win a World Series, it's 12 plus more games, 16 plus more games, depending on how you do and stuff. Like, there's so much alone time, when you're on the road trips by yourself, and like you just got to enjoy that's why you see so much like happiness and partying when these teams win, because like they know how much it took to get there and how much hard long hours to get there. Like it's like almost like a breath of fresh air. Like, man, we finally did it. We can just let loose, enjoy it, and then like let's get back to it for the next year. So I think that's why just when these major league sports teams win the big game, like the partying is almost like, man, we did it. We
It's the most epic thing ever.
We can finally just let loose for a week or so, and then after that week or so is over, it's like, all right, let's get back to business next year.
Round 2,
because next year's comes a lot quicker than you expect.
And that getting there, it only lasts for a week.
Yep.
It really does. And but it's who you became in the process of like shooting to be the best version of yourself out there, and like shooting for that will make you your best you.
100%.
I love it, man. Well, thanks again for coming on the podcast. Thanks for coming back and
thanks for
telling us our story. And so any last things you want to go before you go?
No, enjoy doing this, and
find you at Isaiah Campbell on Instagram. Like, I mean, you don't really have many handles.
You get on there, you're not going to see a picture from the last
seen Arkansas
years.
Pictures.
There's no point of following me because it's just going to be stuff from 3 years ago.
Hey, just tune into the D-backs and watch them on live.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we'll catch you guys next week on The Price for Paradise. My name's Woody, and aloha.
Bango. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, I should have wore a shirt in here. I forgot how hot it gets in here.
Right? Especially when you're on the stem.